I've just submitted a great World Eaters list to a local RTT, and I'm really looking forward to playing it this coming weekend. But I've got a couple of problems. One, I've never played World Eaters before, and two, I don't own any of the models. Let's get started. Alright, so here's the footage of me building up my army and getting it painted, and I'll let that play while I talk through the concept of the list and what our really goals are for this weekend. I played Chaos to a pretty high standard, managing to win Best in Faction globally for the ITC last year. So far this season, I've been focusing on Demons, which I think are one of the strongest armies in the game right now, as we come to the end of 9th edition. And I think they're at their peak strength in relation to the rest of the field, basically since the book dropped. So, now seems like a great time to jump faction and play World Eaters. I'll talk you through the list, but first let me mention the theme, because every army has to have a theme. My idea for this one is for the gang to all be sampling food from around the world. You know, World Eaters. We'll see how it pans out. The list is centered around Angron, but it's not a Red Disciples list. This was a very tough decision, because I've got all the 8-bound, which really benefit from being Red Disciples. But I decided that the fight on death and the heroic intervention maybe are a little bit more important than having Obsec on my 8-bound and the trap in combat. In the end, the final straw was the fact that you can't take the 3 obligatory spawn in the Red Disciples, as they do not have the demon keyword. And without them, your blood ties really just don't pile up the way you want them to. So we've got Angron, 13 8-bound in a unit of 4, 4, and 5, and then 2 units of 3 exalted 8-bound, 11 jackals for the power level jank, because I'm going to bring demons along with the list, and then 3 solo spawn, led by Lord Invocardis, because he's just better than a regular Juggerlord, and the fact that he can fly means I can get that +2 movement buff to where I need it at the right time. And then we've got the Demon Patrol, with 5 Fleshhounds, 10 Bloodletters, and Scarbrand himself. Double monster, double damage, and most importantly, double trap in combat. The idea for the list is quite simple, which is part of the beauty of the World Eaters Codex. This works by keeping Angron back, behind a wall if they have guns, and then advancing him forwards when the time is right, looking for a charge if there is one in range, but if not, then just using him to bring in Scarbrand 6 inches further forward, and then looking for those tasty 6-7 inch charges with Scarbrand, and charging and trapping something in combat with him and the Bloodletters. If I manage to kill some stuff too, then all the better for it. Let's see if it works. Just played my first practice game and went okay. I managed to I threw away a couple of resources early. I was into Gene Stealer Cult, and I put a unit of 8-bound out quite far forward as a sort of, just to hold one flank, as a sort of screen for one flank. I thought that if it gets charged by the Gene Stealers, then it could fight on death, and at least it would be an even trade. But the Gene Stealers charge in, and the 8-bound on the response don't actually manage to kill all the Gene Stealers, which I think is actually not that unlikely. You know, like maybe they're much more likely to kill 8 than 10. So yeah, that didn't feel so great. Felt like losing 8-bound for nothing, which I think is a real problem with the list. But from there, I did manage to get the combo off where I throw Angron forward, get him to charge a screen, and from his Warp Locus bring in Scarbrand, get him to charge another screen, and then together they both piled quite far and tagged 2 separate shooting units. So that worked really well, which is really kind of the core concept of the list. And yeah, so from there, I felt like I was down maybe a few too many resources. They were kind of a 2-man army at that point. But yeah, I'm not actually sure how the game would have ended, but it went well up to that point. I had to call it a bit early. Just had to rush to the vet with my mum, but sorry, nothing was wrong in the end, but better safe than sorry. Yeah, so the list plays, I think it plays well, but it's not as easy as it might seem at first glance, but we'll see. Alright lads, just finished round 1 against Gene Stealer Cult. Went well. I did get the win, managed to go 87 to 54. It did look a bit dicey at the end of turn 1 though, because I'd thrown forward Scarbrand and thrown forward, I got a charge, it was my turn 2 actually, sorry, but I got a charge into his Gene Stealers with my Angron and did the yeet to get Scarbrand in as well. And so but Angron could not then actually follow up and get into combat, so he was exposed, trapped in the open, and did end up taking and then going down in the shooting phase. So that was maybe a mistake. The mistake was I sent the Bloodletters in at the same time, and they into some bikes, and they got flamed to death on the charge. So there's only 5 of them left, and they didn't do much damage when they impacted, and it meant I was too scared of the interrupt, so I couldn't start with Angron. And if I'd started with Angron, then he could have piled around, killed all the Stealers, and then piled into some characters. That would have been a much more comfortable game at that point. But yeah, a win's a win. So we move onwards and upwards. All right, so just finished game number 2. This was into Space Wolves. He was a pretty good player. I haven't seen him around before, but before going in, I was talking to some of the other lads, and they were saying to watch out for him. He is a bit of a dark horse with his Space Wolves. He says he's only been playing for a little bit of time, like less than a year maybe, but he's played exclusively Space Wolves, and he's done a lot of research, watching videos, learning how to play the game at at a higher level. And it was apparent from his deployment and just from turn 1. Yeah, this is clearly he was a good player. Sometimes, but oh well. I did lose. We were trading Wolfen into 8-bound for all day long. We're both fighting on death. We both kind of want to simplify the board state by just getting rid of a couple of those. And so we're both kind of happy to take those trades. But really, you do need to look for value in these melee matchups. And so I did try and squeeze that out. I had a nice tasty 3-inch charge, 3 inches into Sky Claws, but I could instead take a 5-inch charge into Sky Claws and Wolfen. And what this does is this gives me an opportunity to trade up with this 5-man 8-bound, because they'll pick up both those squads, and then the Wolfen will fight on death, pick up the 8-bound, but 2 for 1, that's absolutely fine at that point, and then the material is really pushing in my advantage, and I can bring it back. But so I ended up failing the 5-inch charge, and I failed it on a 3, re-rolled it into another 3, so it's just like rubbing it in my face that I picked the wrong target. But it was alright, because I also made the choice to take 6s explode in combat rather than +1 to charge. But taking +1 to charge wouldn't have let me make that 9-inch charge, that 5-inch charge anyway, so wouldn't have made a difference. But yeah, it was a good game. Abandoned Sanctuaries, or whatever it's called. Secure Missing Artifacts, sorry. So we're both going to basically cap primary, so it's going to be a fight for secondary, and obviously, more importantly, a fight for material. And yeah, just with that failed charge, he ended up getting a bit ahead, losing a 200-point unit of 8-bound, really for nothing, just died to shooting. It's like the army's not designed to be shot. It's in fact designed to never be shot. And when it does get shot, it loses. So that's the knife's edge you play with this game, I guess. But oh well, Angron's still pulling his weight. I love that guy. 1 more to go. So, just finished my last game, got home from the tournament. I was into Death Guard on the Scouring. It did go okay. As you can see from the map, we were pretty far apart though, with really sparse terrain in the middle, so it was going to be a hard matchup. Luckily, I did get the second turn, so it allowed my opponent to really need to take action on turn 1, because he knew that I was going to get that 12 at the end, even if nothing else happened. I think with the secondaries as there were, he took Assassinate, he took the Death Guard specific one, where he gets loads of points at the end of the game, and grind them down. But he's got the Mortars, so he was going to grind them down for at least 3 turns. But still, I think if nothing had happened, he would have maybe lost the passive game just because of World Eater secondaries, right? Like I didn't take banners, but I was going to have things die in the middle, and I was going to use my Blood Tithe points, so that was at least 15 there. But yeah, so he ended up sending stuff a bit too far forwards, and I was able to pounce with Angron, send out Scarbrand, and although I did fail a couple of charges in that turn, I also just pushed up the rest of my army, used the opportunity to just shove everything forward, even though there was no cover, because I knew that just with overwhelming force, that was the only way to get past his crap ton of guns. But yeah, managed to do that, managed to snake out that win.
So 2-1 overall. I didn't see my final placing, but yeah, not bad for the World Eaters for their first run out. Yeah, quite happy with that. I think I would take them again. Not so sure about the whole Scarbrand Angron combo. I think just a more traditional Red Angels build is where I'll go in the future. Okay.
So I've had a couple of days to digest the tournament, and I think that what I've got here is the units that I think worked well in the list. So that's the 8-bound were all fantastic. Invocatus was great. The Fleshhounds were decent. They come with some problems without Scarbrand. As you can see, Scarbrand's missing. I think that the Yeet, as mentioned, wasn't necessarily strong enough to make this super competitive. But so at that point, if you do take the demons, what you're really getting with the demon patrol is these Fleshhounds, because they're fantastic in general as a cheap throwaway unit. It's going to get you blood type points. It's going to fire up the board, and it's just a cheaper trading piece than one of these 8-bound units. But the cost to that is these bloodletters. And now bloodletters are great when you have Scarbrand in the list, because then on the turn they go in, they're all going to get 3 attacks each for 130 points, 30 strength 5 attacks, AP 3 damage 2. Like, that is incredible. That's, if you land on the right targets, you might kill 2 units of Marines. You're going to pick up an entire unit of Desolators if you get to them, or 2 5-mans. Maybe even, you're going to do some quite a lot of damage with 1 unit. So they are good with Scarbrand, but without it, they've only got the 20 attacks. It's a lot less reliable. No rerolls. I found the unit to be quite underwhelming, and really what it's doing is stacking the damage profile that I kind of already have with the 8-bound here. So obviously with a lower strength as well. So I'm not sure they really have that good a place. They are OBSEC, which is decent obviously, but when you're really taking them as a tax to take the Fleshhounds. But it could work, because what you can also do is take Karanak, 2 units of Fleshhounds, and the Bloodletters, and that's a good little demon patrol. Get you quite a lot of points, get quite a lot of blood type points, and have a good number of skirmishing pieces. And really, you need those blood type points if you're going in the direction of the Red Angel, which I think does sound fun, because obviously you lose these 3. You lose the 3 spawn, and you lose quite a lot of your generation of blood type points. So I think it is possible to do this kind of build, a Red Angel build. I'm not sure it's as potent as the Invocatus build, but I definitely think there is something there. I think that what you want to do is forget about that amazing World Eater secondary that gives you your free 15. Just leave that behind, as hard as it may be, and instead you're going to focus on just bringing Angron back maybe 2 or 3 times in a game if possible. I mean, probably only twice. That's 12 blood type points. He's obviously going to generate an extra 2 each time he dies, but 12 blood type points is a lot to ask for, just for bringing Angron back, especially when you're going to need the +1 to charge, and you're probably going to want the Feel No Pain as well. But that's a list that I want to put on the table, because I really did feel like Angron performed. Invocatus, also amazing, and I think that the Anthony Vanilla style build probably is very strong, and obviously he's having a lot of success with it, and I think that its upper potential is there, but I think it's going to be it's a very high skill cap army, and it'll be difficult at this point, coming to the end of the edition, to find the reps to actually get up to that level where you can actually consistently push the 5-0 results at these big events. And at that point, I already have armies that I can go 4-1 with. So I just don't think that this army really does compete with the demons for those more competitive events. But it is a lot of fun, and as I say, I think I'm going to continue to take Angron leading a sort of Red Angel force, and go for behind enemy lines with some, exalted 8-bound and 8-bound firing up the field, and really trying to using that 6-inch follow when opponents fall back strat, just to lock people down that way, and then obviously Angron himself locking people up if ever he makes it that far up the board. I think there's going to be something there. So that's my take on World Eaters. I think I'm happy to have managed to get them battle ready, and in just a week and 5 days I managed to get them to a tournament. with the theme intact. You know, we've got Angron here eating his ramen, which I'm just gonna really enjoy. Every time I look at him, I think he's gonna go on a shelf, if not on the tabletop, as often as he should. But yeah, but we just have no idea what 10th edition is going to bring. So I really, I'm pretty sure that actually World Eaters aren't going to change that much. I think the book was maybe even designed to play in 10th. So if that's the case, then yeah, I definitely see a case to be made for this cool Red Angel build. If Behind Enemy Lines exists, then maybe we can try and push something like that. And you know, we don't really know what it's going to look like. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think that there's always going to be a place for a fast-moving melee monster who resurrects every time he dies. I think that's going to, yeah, I think that might make it into my ambitions for 10th edition, is to, yeah, maybe play World Eaters. I mean, I've been playing Demons for a while now, and I'm always happy to play other Chaos factions, so I think World Eaters might be a good, strong choice going forwards. But until then, I've got a team event coming up. I'm back on Demons for that, and of course, I'll be doing more top table reviews for you guys. Take a break from these kind of more personal experiences at the events and just do some real analysis of top table games. There hasn't been any real super majors to look at, but we'll probably review a couple of GTs because you still get some good gameplay at some of those things. In fact, there's a World Eaters game that I've got in mind that maybe would be a good follow-up to this video. Yeah, so I'm going to check that out, and I'll get that to you guys soon. Great. Catch you in the next one.